Every time I upload a video about the abandoned permaculture demonstration site that I'm clearing by hand, every time I upload a video about that, everybody wants to know more about this tool right here, this scythe. Seems to be a hot topic of discussion for some reason, but today we're going to be talking about it. Now, by far the most popular question I get about this scythe is, where did you get it? I got it at a small farm store called Parker & Sons Farm Supply, I believe, in Mars Hill, North Carolina. All the locals call it Smiley's. If you go to the gas station and say, hey, can you point me in the direction of Smiley's? They'll tell you exactly how to get there. The brand of scythe this is a Seymour, Seymour, I believe. It's a Seymour scythe, and I don't necessarily recommend the brand. I haven't used any of their other tools, but just the scythe, the handle or the body of it has held up pretty well. It's aluminum. It does conduct electricity, so if you're scything around, an electric fence or something like that, then be careful because it will conduct electricity. But the blade has been replaced by, believe it or not, an antique blade. The antique blade is at least 100 years old, and the brand new blade broke while I was cutting, I believe, silvergrass with it. As far as a good place to buy a scythe, I honestly have no idea. I don't have any recommendations on where to get one. I don't even know a good brand for scythes. I know that there's this one Austrian dealer that will make them to fit, which is an Austrian scythe. I want to check them out, just haven't gotten around to it yet. If anybody knows of a good scythe supplier or dealer or anything like that, please link them down below in the comments and I will reach out to them. Hopefully we can work out a deal where I get a scythe and save you guys some money too if you're interested in it. So link them down below, please. A lot of people also want to know what type of scythe this is and what type of scythe they should get. This one right here, well, I'll start with the most common one. That is a grass blade. That's going to be best for light vegetation if you're weeding around your garden beds. If you're dealing with grass or clover or something like that, your grass blade is going to be best. If you're dealing with anything thicker than a grass blade, then you want to move over to a bush blade. Now, the original blade that was on this aluminum body was a grass blade. That broke. What's on here now is still technically a grass blade, but it behaves like a bush blade. A bush blade has a wider angle on the cutting edge right here. The edge geometry is slightly different. The grass blade has a very narrow cutting edge because it's just dealing with, it doesn't have to be that tough. It's dealing with grass. But this bush blade, well, it is now, has a wider angle, and it's better made for dealing with thicker vegetation. Like if you're dealing with small saplings or vines or ragweed or goldenrod or anything like that, then you probably want a bush blade. Now, this used to be a grass blade, and as you can see, this end is about the same width as this end over here, which shows me that this has been sharpened a ton. A lot of material has been removed from this blade, which has narrowed this and also has widened the cutting edge. Now, I know it doesn't seem like it would widen that much, but when you're cutting, it's a big difference. This is now a bush blade. Your grass blade can turn into a bush blade the older it gets, which is also cool. You can buy an old blade for your bush blade, buy a new blade for your grass blade if you want to. Some of the other varieties are there's a ditch blade, which is a lot shorter scythe. It's very, very wide, and the angle of it in total is way steeper because you're going to be digging into ditches and stuff like that to clear those out. There's also, like a Japanese style scythe, I believe, which is almost not even the same tool as this. You might as well consider it some other tool. Completely different technique on using it, different style, all that stuff. And then there's also the Austrian blade, which we mentioned before. The Austrian blades are cool because they have their own technique. It's not too different than this, but they have their own technique, and they're also made to fit. So they take certain dimensions off you. I don't know if it's from like your knee to the ground or like the length of your forearm or whatever. I don't know what the dimensions are, but they take those dimensions and make a perfectly made to fit scythe for you. This one is a little too short for me. So whenever I use it, I can't stand upright like this. I have to bend over like that before I'm even coming close to touching the ground. And I'm 6'1", so if you buy a stock one like the Seymour here, if you're shorter, it might work better for you. If you're taller, it's definitely not gonna work better for you. So maintaining your scythe is pretty simple. I just had a pair of channel locks, remove this nut right here, and then you can take the blade off. There are a lot of people, especially on the newer scythes, that use a peening jig. It's attached to a stump and you just line this edge up with it and then you tap around the edge of the steel. And the benefit of that is that the steel is a work hardened steel. So the more you do it, the harder it's gonna get. And then you can go back and file the edge after that. A, I don't have a peening jig. B, I'm not sure that this is a work hardenable steel. So I stick with just this file. And filing your scythe or sharpening your scythe is super easy. You can either use this file or you can use some stones that they sell online, stuff like that. But all you do is lay it up against the ridge of your blade. This is the ridge part right here. Here's the ridge, here's the edge. You just lay it up against the ridge part of your blade like that, and then lay it flat up against your edge. And that is the angle that you need for your scythe. So you can just follow it along that way. And you don't even need to take it off of your handle if you're just doing this. If you're doing the peening, then yeah, it's helpful if you take it off your handle. But for this part right here, I'll demonstrate it. Follow that angle all the way down. And then make sure you're not scrubbing with your file, because that's just gonna dull the file faster and then you won't be cutting anymore. And make sure you give it a couple wipes in between swipes and stuff like that, because that'll clean the grooves out in your file and extend the cutting edge. But, so now you can see why the closer this edge gets to this ridge, the steeper the cutting angle is gonna be. So over time, grass blade turns into bush blade, and now you have two scythes if you replace that grass blade. And then after you get a new edge on this, you can see it's nice and shiny from there. Once you get that, then you go to the back side of it and go flat again, like you did on the edge side. Go flat and then just raise up your handle just a little bit and then bring it along the back side of your blade. You only have to do it a few times because what you're doing here is removing the burr that you created on the other side. Another pretty common question I get about the scythe and using it is, why on earth are you using a scythe? Why don't you use a weed eater or a mower or a brush hog or anything like that? Well, a couple different reasons. When I first got here, the mower wasn't working. It's still not working. And the weed eater was in the shop. Well, the weed eater's back, but it doesn't necessarily handle, this real thick brushy stuff that I have out here. This thing does wonderfully. I've done 99.9% of all the clearing on this property right now with just this scythe and a machete. Point number two is that once you buy it, and once you buy a file, then you don't have to buy anything else for the blade, for the scythe. Given that the blade, holds up and stuff like that, you don't have to buy anything else. You don't have to buy any oil. You don't have to buy any gas. You don't have to buy any more weed eater string. You don't have to buy replacement parts. There's no filters to fix or anything like that. It works just as long and just as well as you do. So that's the gas tank, I guess, is you. You're the gas tank for the scythe. Also, it's so much faster than a weed eater when it comes to knocking out this brushy stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that the scythe is the best option. It's not always the best option. It's not always a good tool to go to. And it might not even be a right tool for you to ever buy. But for me, at this application, and maybe for some of you, the scythe is the right tool for the job. Some of the downsides of the scythe is that the biggest one is that it's reliant upon your gas tank. It can only go and work as long as you can. If you get tired, then the scythe gets tired and you're not getting anything else done. But that's also a plus side. The plus side is that you're getting a workout at the same time. That's one thing and I know some of us can attest to it, a lot of homesteaders and farmers don't look like we're eating what we're growing, if you know what I mean. Some people could use the extra workout, and it is harder, and sometimes it's not as convenient as riding a lawnmower and stuff, but at least you got a workout in. Instead of going to a separate location and working out at a different time, you could stack functions, which is another permaculture edict or technique, is to stack functions. It's a design technique. So you can get your workout in at the same time you're getting some of your fence rows cleared, or your trees cleared, or something like that. Just think about the Scythe being an alternative for you if you need it. Also, it's way cheaper than buying, like if you guys are some of the new guys getting started into permaculture or homesteading, and you're trying to acquire tools and stuff like that, this might be more bang for your buck than buying a weed eater or a mower. I mean, I think clearing all of this stuff has been, proof of it. This thing has done outstanding, and it's definitely far surpassed its $100 price point that I paid whenever I first got this. I don't know what scythes are going for now, but I've had this for a couple years. And that grass blade that I talked about in the beginning, it did last a couple years before it gave way. So I did get quite a bit of value out of it. Before we end this video, I did want to show you guys a little update on the farm. Now, this is the swale at the top of the property. That is the part that I cleared first. This is the part that I'm working on now. This is the swale at the top of the property, and it's rained maybe 5 or 6 days ago, but it's still retaining water. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing. We do want it soaking into the landscape, but it's better in this ditch than it is just running off down the watershed and not being used on the property. So this swale still works. It's still growing these trees. The water is still soaking into the property. It just takes a little bit longer because this is such heavy clay up here. I just recently got that swale uncovered, and it holds water pretty well, so I wanted to show you guys that before it all either evaporated or soaked back into the landscape. But if you guys need any permaculture consultations in person or on the phone, hit the links down below. I'm on all the social media stuff, so don't forget to check those out. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you.